All right, let's get rid of all this. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. I am going to be talking about Docker, which is a container that you use either in place of or on top of a virtual machine. And just like John in the first one, I'm hoping this will be part of a 1 or 2 part series on Docker, because I was actually going to spin up the Docker environment on top of one of the Rails apps that we learn for Firehose, so that everyone can see how it works. What is Docker? It is open source technology that allows you to run, build, test, and deploy applications inside software containers. It allows you to package a piece of software in a standardized unit for software development containing everything the software needs to run, including the code, runtime, the system tools, and the library, and enables you to quickly, reliably, and consistently deploy applications regardless of the environment. Unlike when you first start with Firehose and you have to, when you walk through the steps to deploy the Vagrant environment, they're specific. It says, make sure you do this. If you don't, you're going to get some kind of an error. One of the things that Docker allows is for one person to set up the environment, and then it can be deployed to everyone else. So there wouldn't be the issue with worrying about getting it set up. Although you need to do that so you learn how to use Ruby. But once you do that, and Rails, once you do that, putting in a Docker container and images on top makes it really, really nice. Benefits of Docker. You can ship your software faster. Docker containers, it's about 7 times, and I'm sure this is just from Docker, faster than non-Docker users. It enables developers to ship isolated services as often as needed by eliminating the headaches of software dependencies. For example, sometimes when you run your bundler on Rails, it says, that something is out of date or whatever. You don't ever have to worry about anything being out of date. Each thing can be isolated, so you can, ship just a piece of it, and you don't have to worry that Ruby Gems is down or whatever. Improves developer productivity. It reduces the amount of time spent setting up new environments or troubleshooting the differences between environments. One of the issues when I did a Rails Rumble a few months ago with Chris, who just did the previous talk, was that she and the other girl and I didn't have the same computer set up. So we did finally go through Vagrant, but Sharon was running Linux and we were running Mac. So it was a little different setup, and Docker allows you to do Windows, Unix, Linux. If you just want to run full Unix, Linux, Windows, and Mac all at the same time. So it makes it really, really nice. Dockerized apps are seamlessly moved from local developments to production on numerous hosts. So I could move my stuff up to Heroku, to Amazon Web Services, to anything else that you want to throw your Docker environment up to. Standardized applications. Oops, wrong way. Go this way. There we go. Standardized application operations. Small containerized applications, again, make it easy to deploy. And if there are any issues, you can roll back. Additional benefits of Docker, like I said, cross-environment consistency. Expands your development team painlessly. If you have a new person that comes on to your team, instead of having them spend 10 hours or their first day trying to get the app up and running, everybody can have it running on their workstation within just a couple of minutes in an automated, repeatable, and efficient manner. One thing that when you refactor all of your code on Firehose is they say, don't repeat yourself. So this makes it so you do not have to repeat yourself. You can use whatever technology fits best. Since you can isolate an application in the Docker container, maybe maybe PHP is going to work with your program, or Perl or something besides Ruby. You don't actually have to have that on your machine. And even if you use the Vagrant that we set up from Firehose, you can pull a Docker environment in using a different software or different program, and you don't have to have it on your machine, so it doesn't take up any space. It's easy to learn. And you can experiment if you want to learn a different language, although I didn't see anything on Swift on there, but I wasn't looking, so I'll have to look for that later. Also, one of the issues that you have when you're working with groups is that business people have access to the environments, the development environments. Docker makes it so you can distribute the application to members of another team. They don't have to know how it's configured or how it's set up. They just have it, period. Makes it really nice when you're working in a group where not everyone are developers. All right, Docker includes, when you'll need to download this, the Docker engine, which is the container combined with the workflow for building your applications. And unlike the traditional virtual machine that takes up a lot of disk space, it's run on a thin layer on your host OS versus a traditional virtual machine. And then Docker Hub, just like GitHub, software as a system for sharing and managing your application stacks. Installation of the Docker, I'm going to do it on a Mac. It's pretty simple. You're going to go to the docker.io, download through, set it up just like anything else. You're going to actually want to make sure, I always take this off to help improve toolbox, collecting anonymous data, but that's just a personal thing. It ends up in your launch pad. So you have the quick start terminal on your launch pad, and you're going to open up the window. I'm actually going to show what this looks like really fast, if I can stop this. Here is the quick start terminal on my machine. I'm going to pull it up, and the Docker people, the whale is their symbol. So it says that just like Vagrant, where we go to the Vagrant terminal for Firehose, you click on the quick start, it brings it up right here. Then to verify the installation, you go out to, there's only a couple of commands, unlike GitHub or Git, where there are numerous commands. There are very few commands that you have to run on Docker. So I'm actually going to make sure that this is connected to Docker. Docker run hello world. There it is, confirmed that it's actually running. This gives you a hello message from Docker that the installation is working correctly, tells you everything is set up and ready to go. So it's a really simple install that you have on here. Let's go back to this. Verify the installation. And then the next thing you need to do is add the Docker Hub to your tool belt, just like you want to install with GitHub. It includes image repositories, automated builds, organizations, and it allows your Docker images to be added to your current workflows for GitHub and Bitbucket. Your Docker Hub account is basically setting it up just like Git, and then you connect it to your local machine much the same way that you would with GitHub. You're going to put in your username, your password, and your email that you set up your Docker Hub account with. And I just did a little bit of research. I haven't used Docker on top of the Vagrant yet. I just used it alone. But I wanted to see, since we use Vagrant with Firehose, why you would use Docker and Vagrant. So it simplifies development, making it fast and easy to spin up containers that are system level snapshots of production. You're deploying the full snapshot at once. You don't have to worry about apt update packages or bundler updates from Ruby gems, or worse, if Ruby gems is actually down when you deploy. I actually had that happen when I was deploying to Heroku once. The Ruby gems was down, and I got an error, couldn't figure out what it was, and it was just that the site was down for a minute. Bottom line for Docker, what if you could develop your Rails app in isolation on your workstation without using chruby or RVM, or changing Ruby versions was easy. You had everything you needed as a consultant or freelancer with 10 Rails projects isolated for each project without needing to waste precious SSD disk space. You could spin up Rails, Postgres, and Sidekick stack in about 3 seconds. You wanted to share your project on GitHub, and other developers only had to run a single command to get everything running in minutes. It took less than 50 milliseconds for your container to start running. Docker makes all of that possible. There's just some additional information on there. And then, like I said, next time we will have additional stuff that I talked to Colin about. I wanted to show you. This is actually what Docker Hub looks like. I just created a quick one using the same screen name that I used for my GitHub account with Firehose, showing the repository. And you can go onto your, this is actually my repository, and I can go look, type in Docker, pull my name and the name of the repository. I don't remember what I called it. My Docker whale. I hear you. And then, didn't come out there. I don't know where I put it. All right, well, since it got beeped again, I always get beeped. I will, next time we'll be able to show you how to pull from Docker Hub and put the Ruby on Rails application inside a Docker container. Does anybody have any questions?
So I have a question. What was the motivation that you had that sort of ultimately drove you to actually learn this technology? So, like my background, like I've watched a few YouTube videos. It looks pretty cool, but I haven't sort of gone through the process of actually Dockerizing anything, because like I feel like while the setup I have now isn't optimal, like it's good enough. So I guess what was the point that made you realize I need to learn Docker, and it's worth the effort to do?
Well, actually, when we started working on the chess app, which for those of you that haven't finished Firehose, it's one of the final projects that you do as a group, and being able to. I was thinking about having a team that wasn't all in the same page and didn't have the same skill set, and wanting to, be able to have it set up in just a few minutes instead of struggling with trying to get everything set up, being able to just say, here's the container, boom, go, and let's move on with getting the real programming out of the way, and not just worrying about the setup. So that was the motivation behind starting to learn more and more about Docker.
So did you use it as a team, or did you only see the use case of it when working with other people, but you didn't convince them to use it?
Now, I only saw the use case, but by the time I really understood the benefits of it, we were already way into our chess app. Now, that one of my team members and I are actually, we've built something else, not in Rails, but in Ruby, and we are going to deploy that to Rails. And we thought maybe we would try using Docker with it, so that we could just have something else to put in our tool belt, add to our resume, and say, hey, yeah, it's something else that I know how to use.
That's awesome. Super cool. Does anybody else have any questions for Diane?
I got a comment. use Docker in production, and that was switching from before when we were just deploying with like Capistrano and Puppet, I think. And it's a huge difference as far as how easy it is to deploy. There's some quirks, of course, like any technology, right? Like you have to do some things a little bit different than if you just had it straight on. But the benefits are huge. We had one of our machines go down, and then we had to switch for some reason. And it was the easiest thing. We just copied over our Docker file, everything, and Docker, well, for us, we're still on Docker Compose. So, well, actually, no. Yeah, Docker Compose up, and everything came back on. Whenever we need to add something new, we just add it to the YAML file, which is kind of like a configuration file, and it'll bring up that container with a completely different environment. If something goes wrong in one of those containers, destroy it and build it right back up, and you're back fresh. It's just really an awesome tool. It really is.
Really cool. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Diane?
Yeah, I have another question. Dan, would you recommend, like, at what point would you recommend for somebody looking into this?
I might actually, like, it would have been something cool to have at the beginning of even doing the Firehouse project when we started this. You know, I didn't understand all the stuff that was going on then that I do now. So, you know, maybe hindsight is 20/20, but so maybe you do need to go through it and understand how the virtual machine works, understand what Vagrant is before you begin using Docker. But, you know, I think you didn't, when you first start with Firehose, you don't actually know all of those things. You just say, here, do this, 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 and this. So it could be the same thing. Here, do this, 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 and this. And while you're going through it, then you begin to understand a little bit more of what it's doing, why you're in the YAML file, how you can just blow away one container and bring up another one quickly. So, you know, you get a lot of stuff thrown at you the first couple of days, and you think your head's going to explode. But, you know, what's one more thing?
Your head's already exploded.
Exactly.
Just another thing, at least around here, it's kind of like the hotness in startups, right? Because it makes your DevOps that much easier. So if you can add that to your tool belt and your resume, it's just one other thing that's going to sound attractive while you're getting started, because it really simplifies the DevOps side of it. So a lot of startups are going that route.
Yeah, and like I said, I wanted to use one of the Firehose things so that every week we could see, you know, a real case for using something. But I was telling Chris, it added like 18 minutes to my talk, so that's why it has to be next time.
Cool, good stuff.
You continue. Thanks, Diane.